Hey there, everybody. We're back. This is a new adventure for us. Seth is not here. He's not dead, even though he might as well be. But he's not dead. He's just not joining us for this particular brand of show, what we're doing here. This is Side Banter. This is a new adventure hosted by yours truly, edited by yours truly, and where yours truly talks about whatever the fuck he wants to talk about. So today we are joined by some guests that I've wanted to have on for a really long time, and just through scheduling and life happening, we haven't been able to get our schedules lined up. But I am joined here today by Jules and Bea of the All Things Jules and Bea podcast. How we doing, ladies?
Hey guys.
Good, great.
Good. Well, I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are good. So thank you for joining me on this rainy Saturday. I was talking earlier with Jules. It seems like you guys had some success at the market
oh my God,
today.
yes. And then the rain,
super busy.
like the rain held off for the most part.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really did. And we had like nice crowds all day, so it was a nice little flow.
That is awesome. Yeah, because I guess I was telling you up here, it was just like rainy and wet and miserable. And I'm not even that far from you guys. Like I'm up in Lockheed, and it was like rainy and miserable up here all day. So I'm glad you guys were able to have some success down there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Talk about your show, plug your socials.
Well, I didn't know if she wanted to. But I have like a little podcast that we do where it's just like kind of like a variety show. We kind of just, sometimes we have a plan, sometimes we just kind of talk in the way we would talk to each other on a normal basis. So it can be a little random at times, but it's been pretty good so far. We have a YouTube channel that we record our videos to, and a Spotify account that we have our audio things on, and I don't know, just kind of little random things. Sometimes we talk about spiritual things. Sometimes it's like conspiracy-based things. Sometimes it's just gaming things. Yeah, just random things. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome because I first got onto your content when you were doing the Astro Talk. That's kind of where you got onto my radar as far as like your pod. So it's fun to see you transitioning to doing what you're doing now. It's awesome.
I feel like Astro Talk was a little more serious. Compared to like videos, like a little more serious, and then this is like a fun side of things.
I don't know that we're that serious.
No, my Astro Talk was more serious, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
More like fun sort of podcast. That one was like educational, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's awesome. As I said, I'm a real big fan of the show. I tend to listen when I'm on the treadmill. Like you guys are always like my treadmill go-to. It's been like that. So, like, yeah. I don't know, for some reason, like every time I do my cardio day, you guys just so happen to put out a new episode. I'm like, all right, we're in.
So we'll get you good and worked up, and then you can really like have that.
Well, I just think it's cool to hear like different perspectives and just like things you maybe that may not be in your own echo chamber, like hearing people talk about that stuff. And I don't know, I love learning new things. I'm weird. Like I just love learning things.
Oh, me too.
We do too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So today's episode is going to be based on gaming, but more like gaming like as a coping skill. Because as we all know, through life, life can be very gaming can get stressful. I've seen people play Fortnite and lose their shit. But life will definitely throw some curveballs at you. And with all of us being gamers, I think it would be a really fun conversation to just talk about like how we use gaming to get us through some tough times. Because I think everyone in here probably more than likely has done so. So.
Absolutely.
Before we get into that meat and potatoes, like what types of games do you guys like to play? Like what are you currently playing?
Okay. Oh, I'll go first because I'm playing Grounded. I'm playing Grounded right now.
Okay.
And I also play this shooter called Deep Rock Galactic. So they're not really the same kind of game. But I'm playing Grounded. That's pretty fun. And right now that's all I can handle. So I like Grounded because you're like super small, and it's super challenging because you don't think things are going to eat your face, but they do. And I like the survival aspect of it. And then I'm
excited to play that with you guys.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
My son plays too, and we were like, let's get her all the gear ready. We'll kill a bunch of ants so she's set to go so she doesn't die to a wasp.
You should have heard me today. I was like, Corin, are you going to be mad when I start playing and don't know anything to do? He's like, no, you'll be fine. I was like, okay, don't be mad when I'm fumbling around and messing everything up.
No, he's like way cool. Like you can't even there's no structures. You have to like build all your structures, Which the structure building in that game is a lot better than if you've ever played Ark.
Yeah, I never played that one.
That
I played a little bit of Ark, but
it's
not a ton.
Balls.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the structure building is a lot better. And I just really enjoy it. I find it relaxing. Once you like learn the controls of it and everything. Because you're going to be playing on PC, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm playing on PS4.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I wonder how easy it's going to be compared to playing on a console.
Way easy for you?
Yeah.
Everything's easier on console?
I love playing on a PC anymore. Like, I was a console gamer for, like, the longest time, and then I finally got a PC, and it just is, like, so easy and so beautiful to, like, game on, and I don't know. I really love it. Depending what you're playing, but for me, I really love PC gaming.
Do you use mouse and keyboard then, Jules, or you?
Yeah.
Okay,
I do, and then sometimes if there's, like, something that needs a controller, I will link my PS4 controller to it, but I hate, like, unlinking it, so I just kind of avoid doing that whole thing as much as I can. But
I can't do mouse and keyboard. I tried playing like I just haven't taken the time to learn it. I tried playing like Doom. Like it was like last year, and like my hands started cramping. I'm like, this isn't good. Like, so I just switched back to controller.
You just keybind.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. What have you been playing, Jules?
I've been playing this really weird game. I kind of talked to you a little bit about it, that knuckle sandwich. I don't know if you ended up getting it or not, but basically it's like this weird, it was on sale, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's this weird indie game where you're this boy and you move to this strange town and you're like forced to get a job, and there's like this whole waiting line for jobs, and he can't find a job, so he goes to this restaurant, and the guy is like a really crazy boss, and he like basically is like, you're gonna work for me, and like makes him work for him, and he like basically he goes out to take the trash out, and some guy gets in a fight with him, and he accidentally kills him. And the boss is like, oh, we gotta like basically do something with this body. So he turns the body into like burgers and starts like serving it to people and calls them knuckle sandwiches.
Ew, gross.
Knuckle sandwiches. So then he's like, I need you to go out and kill a bunch of people so we can have knuckle sandwiches. And then you're like in between dream worlds and like the real world. And it's so weird and chaotic, but it's so much fun. And just, I like weird super games like that.
Definitely. Yeah, it got dark.
Then, it does, but it's, I don't know, it's really weird and fun.
That's no Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, I do that. I like to play that game too.
Is that the one with the serial killer, Dead by Daylight?
Oh, it's so fun, yeah.
Like Freddy Krueger and the Scream character and stuff like that. And then I just last night, I bought Tiny Glade. Like, that just came out. I don't know if you saw anything about that, but it's basically just like a creative building game, and they had it on sale for when it first came out, and I played the demo of that, and that was like really fun. But you can just
like creative build like Minecraft, or like
kind of, yeah. You just have like different like things they give you, and you can build your own like little witch's hut or a huge mansion or a castle, and you can like shape the terrain and put pawns in. I don't know. It's just a nice little relaxing sort of game that seemed really fun. So I'm kind of excited to dive into that. I'm probably gonna play that for a little bit tonight. I don't have to think much. I can just create and do.
I love games like that. Games where you just don't have to. Like, they don't take a ton of brain power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So like so you guys have a variety of types of games you like, or you have a specific favorites? Like what type like genres you tend to stick to?
It just depends on my mood, kind of. Like sometimes I like to play like turn-based RPGs. Sometimes I like to play roguelike games. Sometimes I like to play, like she was talking about, Dead by Daylight, where you're going around just like doing team things. Sometimes I like survival games. It depends what mood I'm in, pretty much, for what I'm playing.
I like to play any game where I can be a DPS and just shoot the shit out of the thing. I did play WoW for a really, really, really long time. And I played a lot of different classes, but I would say I was always like a weapons kind of girl. So
I remember I was listening to your guys' episode when you guys did gaming, and you had mentioned your like first gaming experience was like an MMO DC Online, wasn't it?
Yep, I played that.
And I was like, that is a
flex. That like I went from playing that game to WoW, but I was actually thinking about, maybe I'll just download that again. But no, I'm not, because there's a lot of kids. There's just too many kids. I played Fortnite for a long time, and I can't take the trolling from the kids. I want to be mean to you, but then I remember I have kids.
And you're a child.
And I would not want to. You're an adult playing a video game. I get to shoot things and be okay in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just funny because like most people's their first experience is like something small like Tetris or Mario Brothers.
Oh
DC
no!
I was like, what? Like who? Why? How? Like that was all. Like
And
this is crazy.
played every class you could think of, heroes and villains. I played it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of being a DPS. I used to play a lot of A Realm Reborn, like Final Fantasy 14. That's like the only MMO I've ever played, but I like gravitated completely to DPS because like my buddy Seth, who I do the podcast with, he's always a tank. Like he loves tanking, and I tried it once and I was horrible at it. Like you get
frustrating, don't you think so?
Yeah, like because then people take aggro from you because like if you have a DPS who's just like doing way too much and doesn't pay attention, like you know the other levels of what's going on, it can like ruin a whole raid. So yeah, I can't be a tank though. I just can't, or a healer. Being the healer is actually just way too much pressure. Like way too.
I played a controller a couple of times where you like give power back and stuff like that. I find that a little bit better than a healer because you still can do DPS, but DPS is where it's at.
No, it's like the easiest class, and you get the coolest weapons. Like anytime you play any MMO, you get like the DPS always has like badass weapons. So shout out to the DPS.
A mace to the face. Mace to the face.
Right. So for me, things I've been playing, because when I did these show notes, it might have been a little while ago, so some of this is old, but I was playing this game Man of Medan since we're like in spooky season basically. It's almost like in the ilk of Until Dawn or what was the other one? Beyond Two Souls, like in that type of style of game. Yeah, and I love those games too. Beyond Two Souls is like one of my favorite games of all time, actually.
So
yeah,
good. So good.
So I've been like in the mood for those. Like, just tell me a story. I don't want to like do too much gameplay. And again, with it being approaching Halloween, like all right, I'm in the mood for some horror. So I've been playing that. And what I love about these types of games, like random actors will be in it. Like I was playing Until Dawn. It was like last year, and I forgot Remy Malek's just randomly in it, and then like he blew up after that. And I think in William Dafoe's in Beyond Two Souls, right?
Yeah, and so is
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, yeah, she's in it too. She's like the main character. Yeah,
it's just like so cool. Yeah, I just think that's awesome that they do that. So I've been playing that, and then really just a ton of retro games. Like I've been like on this like just old school Sega Genesis kick. I don't like the nostalgia has been like the nostalgia has just been so good for me. It just takes me back to my childhood. So I just been hammering that out. Most nights when I'm free or I'm not too tired.
Yeah.
Because as we're older, we're like, oh man, I'm like I just need sleep. Yeah.
Sleep is important.
All right. So getting right into it. So gaming is a coping skill. So for me, I honestly discovered this when I was a teenager. So when I was a teenager, I grew up in New York. I grew up in a city called Yonkers. So it was like a little bit outside of New York City. It's not one of the 5 boroughs. If you ever go to New York, they will let you know you're not from New York if you're not from one of the 5 boroughs. But you're still a New Yorker. Like most people there are Yankee fans, Met fans, Knicks fans, all that. But you're not considered a New York, like being in New York City. But so from moving from basically a major city to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, when you're a teenager, and I never knew what culture shock was, and I didn't know like how just different people really were. Like I didn't realize like people were different from me until I moved to Lewisburg, where like no one looked like me, no one really talked like me. Aww. Like so it like I didn't see it coming. So for me, like I got like I was alone all the time, so like feeling like left out, feeling isolated. I was like, shit, I have nothing to do. And I finally I discovered video games, like really, really, like I used to play games. I used to play like Madden and all, like the simple shit. But then like I started discovering games that had like real stories. So like one of my first games I really got into that got me through like my freshman year of high school, where I didn't know anybody, was playing KOTOR. So I still have it. And just through that game, like just going on those adventures, not focusing on like, hey, you have to wake up and go to the place where no one looks like you and everyone points out that you're different. Because I mean, it was 2004. So, I mean,
and it was Lewisburg. Lewisburg was not the greatest.
Yeah. Like, eventually I made friends and all that. But that first year was brutal. Playing KOTOR, I always look at this game and just like always look at it like this got me through some tough times, because like I would have like not really all that many conversations during the day, and then like when I got off school, like the only thing I wanted to do was like just go do that, so I didn't have to focus on like my situation. Because I remember just like looking around, and like I remember like my first day living in Lewisburg, I smelled cow shit, and I'm like, what? Because
I lived on that?
So the crazy part is like I lived on the prison grounds, like, and if you know Lewisburg, like the federal penitentiary. So my father was a lieutenant there, so like I literally moved from like living in an apartment building where I could take a bus, take a taxi anywhere I wanted to go. Like, you know, you would go down to the bodega and talk in Spanish. Like, it was very rare I spoke English, like unless I was at school. To moving to Lewisburg, where I'm smelling cow shit, no one looks like it, no one talks to you. I was like, whoa. So yeah, my first year without Couture, I don't know what I would have did. So do you guys remember your first time, like when you felt like gaming really helped you through something?
I do. Go ahead, Jules.
No, you can go. Go ahead.
I know that I used to suffer from migraines really bad, and I don't think we've talked about this, but like I have a daughter who has special needs, so whenever she would go to sleep, and I would play WoW just to like completely shut my brain off, because everything was key binded for me, so I could just like hit the button, and I didn't have to pay attention so much. And I liked the stories and the lore of every time you picked a new character, and it helped me like calm down and relax and like de-stress my whole day. And that was a big part of when she was really little, because I would get like these stress migraines. So I am very grateful for that game. Like, even like I have like a fear of flying, and I had to fly home for a funeral, and I just kept telling myself on the plane, "You fly an enchanted dragon," like the whole time. So like that's what I just kept saying it to myself over and over. I was a lot younger, and it just got me through the whole airplane ride without like freaking out. But yeah, I think that video games, they help you relax and just not think about anything.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jules.
Mine, I used to, like, I've dealt with depression, like, a lot in my life, and I used to zone out a lot to The Sims. Like, that was my first game that I would probably, like, zone out to, and I would, I really like just, like, building my own little families, and you could, like, always take pictures and, like, form photo albums and write stories. So, like, my little getaway would, like, be creating these, like, fantasy families and these fantasy worlds, and, like, making whole stories like to go along with them, and just like creating happy endings and stuff like that to kind of get me out of the spaces that I was in. And now I get lost in Stardew Valley. Like, if I'm like playing Stardew Valley nonstop, you know, I'm in like a depression, or I'm like in a space where I don't feel like thinking all the time. And I'm just kind of able to zone out and just farm and farm and farm and just make money and not have to really focus on anything going on in my world. So that's like a current thing that I get lost into. Yeah, Stardew Valley is like my go-to anymore.
Animal Crossing sometimes is like that for me.
Yeah.
Did you see the Haunted Chocolatiers coming out?
Is there actually a release date now, or is he?
I think so.
I didn't see anything about release date. Last I saw he was working on it was like 2020. Was like I saw an update, so I haven't really seen anything recent.
I saw that there was a date.
Oh, okay, I'll have to look that up, because I definitely am.
You better double check me.
Yeah.
You better double check me.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up then, because I've been like waiting for that. Like, I knew he wasn't really working on that because he was trying to get all those Stardew like updates done, and he finally has like an update coming for console, and everyone's like, finally, you actually care about us now. And he's been like working so hard on like everything. So I don't know. I know he was waiting to do updates on that until that was like completed, so people weren't like, "What are you doing? Not caring about us?" But it'll be exciting. I'm excited to look into that. That looks like it's gonna be really, really fun. There's even like, I don't know, a lot of like fighting and battling and stuff like that in that one, more than anything that was in Stardew. Like, you might like fight some things in caves in Stardew, but you can actually like go exploring and like battle things, and it looks really fun. I'm excited about that one. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
So that's a sequel to Stardew Valley, right?
I don't think it's gonna be like Stardew. It's gonna be a little different. It's gonna have like a similar sort of vibe. I guess instead of like moving to a farm, you're inheriting like a chocolate factory or something like that. But there's like way more to do, and I don't know. It seems like it's gonna be really, really fun. I've been excited for that. I've been looking forward to that for a while.
Now, Stardew Valley done by one guy? Or
Concerned Ape.
Oh wow! See, I didn't know
Isn't
that.
that amazing? Like,
I love games like this. There's a couple of games that I've played that have been done by one person there, and like literally every single one of them are amazing. Like a game, Dust and Elysian Tale. It's like a Metroidvania. That was done by one person. I think the name of the developer is called Humble Hearts. Cave Story is another one that was like another Metroidvania, ironically enough, done by one single person. Like he did the music, the gameplay, the story.
Amazing.
And there's one more, Axiom Verge, which ironically, another Metroidvania, but it's like literally a carbon copy of Metroid, if you're familiar with like the original Metroid on the NES, that was done by one dude. And every single one of those games I've played, I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. So it's crazy that like people have like that's got to be such a time sink.
Seriously. I don't know, but like at least they care about it and they're like dedicating their entire time to it, and that's why it probably does come out so amazing because they're like pouring their whole heart and soul.
And there's like
into the
no
game.
glitches, or like no
they, like, care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not just rushing to get it out or something. They genuinely care. Yeah. It's really cool.
So another game that I always like look back on, I'm a big retro game collector. Like I love collecting video games. So a lot of these games I'm going to show today are like my original copies that I've had from when I was a kid. So this game, Twilight Princess. So that's Legend of Zelda. It's like on Wii. So this is like, I think 2006 this came out. And this is when I first started playing football, and our high school football team was god awful. Like we were putridly bad. Jules, you would know. Like we were pretty terrible.
It was like pretty sad, honestly. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, we were pretty bad.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, and like so for me, like that was my first time really like playing organized sports like that. Because again, me trying to fit in, I joined the football team, and like I had to get used to losing. So like because like it's just one of those things that you don't realize like what the toll losing takes on you, because like you go through practice, you lift the weights, you take the hits and all that, and then like you do it over just to get blown out like on Friday night in front of all your all your classmates. So I just remember like through training camp like playing Twilight Princess, and again it's just like the escapism, where I remember more about this game than I do any of the playbooks or any of the times like I don't want to name names, but certain coaches would yell at me and shit like that for being like messing things up, or like teammates you didn't get along with. But yeah, just like Twilight Princess is one that like I always look at. I can't go back and play it because I'm weird. Sometimes like certain games I can replay over and over again. Other games like I can only play it once, and I just for some reason can't like re-engage to it, even despite me liking it.
Yeah.
So Twilight Princess is one. And then like I was telling you guys earlier, like my comfort food, if you have a PS4, the Sega Genesis Classics, it's got like 50 games. Yeah, like this is like the number one for me. Like when I'm having like a stressful day at work, or like just over it, like I'll come on and just play Sonic the Hedgehog, or
I love Sonic,
or Space Harrier. That's on here. Yeah, Sonic's like my number one favorite.
Yes.
But I'll play like Space Harrier. Even this recently, I ran through Streets of Rage, and it's just, again, you don't have to put a ton of thought into it. And after a while, like 4 hours goes by, I'm like, okay, I'm no longer like frustrated or angry. I feel good. Did you
ever play that game? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you ever play the game Champions? Like on the Sega? Yeah. Me and my brother used to play that all the freaking time. That was like our favorite game to battle each other out. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Ironically, so one of my best friends from high school, Adam, he was in your grade, I think.
Polini, is that his last name?
Yeah, Adam Polini. Yeah, he's like my best friend, and we've been friends since. Like we're still friends now. He's actually moving back into the area, but cool. we literally play this all the time. Like anytime he comes over, this is what we're doing. So it's just funny. Yeah. That was going to lead into my next my next question. Like, do you have any connections, like friendships that you've made through gaming? Either of you?
She does. I really play with a lot of people. I'm more of like a solo gamer. I really wasn't playing, like I said, I was a console gamer pretty much like the majority of my life, so I didn't play online with like anyone. But she definitely has.
I way do. Because when I played WoW, a bunch of us girls made our own guild, and we became really close. I met a couple people. One of the girls got me into running, and that's how I ran a half marathon, because we were running buddies. And we had like we changed our guild name to something fit this in your mouth kind of deal thing. We were just weirdos. And then Dead by Daylight. I met one of my good friends through Dead by Daylight because girls got to stick together in that game too. I've met a lot of my good friends from video games just because I'm like, I don't like the people, so I don't like to go out, but I'm like super social online.
Like the opposite.
But yeah, I've met a lot of people.
Yeah, same here. I still, so I have people that I've actually never met, but that I still talk to every day, like on PSN. It's like crazy. And it's honestly through an MMO, like through A Realm Reborn, and through Destiny. It's like an online shooter, kind of like it's made by the same people who did Halo. But similarly to Jules, like until online gaming was like a big thing, because even when we were kids, like Xbox Live was like just brand new. Like I think most people
pretty fresh.
Yeah, but like most people, like when we were in school, like we still had LAN parties, like where people would bring their TVs over. So like you really weren't meeting people; it's just the same people you knew, but doing the LAN party. But yeah, but I find like some of those bonds are like the strongest. Where like I have friends who live in Ottawa, I've in Canada, I have friends who live in California, friends who live in Mexico, other friends who live in the UK, and it's just like. Just to hear the different experiences and to be able to talk to people. And for some reason, it's easier to open up to somebody that like but like you don't see them in your everyday life. So like if you tell them something like in confidence, like they may not always like, they may not be in the same social circle as you. So like you can kind of speak freely, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like you're just telling some stranger across the world, like, having these real conversations and you don't think anything of it, but it's like a way of like venting and getting stuff off your chest. So I always find it, fascinating that so many bonds are made that way. There are people who've even gotten married, like they've met their partner.
I know somebody who has gotten married. She just played like a phone game, and they had like a Discord, and she's got married to that person that they met in that phone game, whatever they were playing. That's wild.
Yeah, that's wild. That I would love to talk to somebody who like met their partner like that, because like there would be so much anxiety for me, because like. Again, like it's just such a leap of faith. Like that's insanity to me.
Well, they have Discord now, and like you can FaceTime, and like I think we're moving into like a time where like that's how dating is gonna go. Like you meet in a place where it's like common energy, common ground. It'd be no different than like going to like a D&D club. You know what I mean? But
I've actually never played
super D&D. Cool. Super cool.
Yeah. I've always wanted to play D&D, but never, like, I've dabbled with it, but like every time I did one like session of it, like we never met again. And so I always like envy people who have like, those like long D&D campaigns. Yeah, like they have like consistent games every Monday for like 6 months, or some people some people been campaigns for years. And is it even possible to like beat D&D? Like, is that a thing? Do you complete
No,
D&D?
it can just go on forever. Yeah. My son really loves D&D.
Yeah, and then everyone I know who does D&D, like they can never find a dungeon master, or a dungeon master. I think that's what
DM.
It is. Yeah. And then you have the other people who play like Warhammer, who I always call them like the crypto bros, because like that shit's like super expensive. You ever see people
That's the new game my son is playing, and he's like, "Mom, you got to get this game. It's so good." I'm like, "No, I can't afford to get addicted to some other game."
That's a money pit for parents, like, because it's literally like those.
Thank God he's an adult and he can pay for it himself.
Oh man, like those figures are so expensive, and there are people who like you can 3D print them, but it's like super frowned upon. You got to get like the official ones that are like it's a lot.
I'm good. A lot. I'm good.
People who play Warhammer are a special breed. Man. So do either of you guys online game at all now much, or still offline solo?
I play sometimes with some friends. Like I have some friends now that are in Discord, but like the majority of them I know in person, because I really am like a very in-person type of person. Like I meet a lot of my friends in person, and I connect better in person. So the people I do play with, like I know, like I don't know, like I could play with online now. I play with some other guy that I met like years ago, but they're all people I pretty much know. So like I haven't really met anybody new through things like that. But
every time I see you on Steam, like I'll like log on and like see you, like, what the fuck is she playing? Like if you
everybody's always yelling at me for what I'm playing. They're like, "What are you playing? You play the most random things." I'm like,
I'm like, how do you discover like games? Yeah, like you discover these like crazy indie games that I like.
I just stumble upon them. I'm like, oh, that looks really fun. Like I want to play that. I'm gonna
Is
look
it
that
your
up.
like algorithm on Steam that just recommends it to you? Or you just go down the rabbit
No,
hole?
just like things pop up on TikTok that I find. I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. Or like just random things I stumble upon, like kind of like on Steam. Like I'll be like, oh, this is compared to like these games you played, and they're like something super weird. I'm like, well, yeah, that looks like really cool. Like Knuckle Sandwich, I found that way, and I don't know, they're just all weird games.
Do you find like your Steam backlog is like insane?
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much, just so random. It's just
That's
so
like
random.
everyone I know, including myself. Like my Steam library is filled with so many like RPGs that I'll probably never play. But
Yeah,
like, because Steam gets you, like they'll have those Steam sales, like oh everything's
I
like
know.
yeah, and you'll spend like $50 and get 100 games. And you're like, this is great.
Some of you don't even get to like, and then you forget
Yeah,
about them. Yeah.
yeah, and then you look in your Steam library, like oh yeah, I have that.
Or maybe you'll just play like an hour of this one and an hour of that one, and you forget about it, gets lost in the mix. Like I do that a lot.
Did you ever get to that the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog that I sent you? Did you ever get to
No,
that?
not yet. Not yet. I actually forgot about it. I got caught up in something else probably. I always get distracted, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to actually add that. That looks like
Yeah.
it'd be kind of fun.
So it originally came out as like
enough.
so it's an official Sega game, which is fucking wild.
Oh wow, okay.
And so for April Fools, they like put that game out, and like the meme was like they finally killed him, and then like you would see somebody in the comments like that little blue bastard deserved it. Like, it
Poor
funny,
Sonic.
like, yeah, they just killed him. Like they straight killed him. But yeah, hey, he's back though. His movie's coming out in December. He's popular now.
Yeah.
All
Yes,
right.
and love.
Yeah, right. It's wild. It's crazy to see. So do you guys have any games that are hard to go back to because like memories that are tied to them? Not that I want anyone to trauma dump or anything like that, but like, you know, do you have games that like are difficult? Like for me, there's always one that like this game has like so many weird memories tied to it because my grandmother growing up like would always be the one who bought me video games. Like she was my guardian for like the longest time, and she spoke no English, so you always had to speak Spanish when we were talking to her. If you didn't speak Spanish, you didn't eat. That was a rule. And so that's how me, my sister, and everyone else, that's why we're all fluent, because you always had to speak it. So one day for Christmas, you give a Christmas list, but you don't expect to get certain things because you won't think they know what it is. So my grandmother, for one Christmas, it was like Christmas 2000, she came through and got me Final Fantasy 9. It's my favorite Final Fantasy game. And so I don't know to this day how she figured it out, because like I don't know how she did it. And long story short, with her, like eventually she passed, and so like this is one of my favorite games, but it always reminds me of her. But the other thing that makes it difficult for me to kind of play through this, because I have a lot of memories tied to this, I've moved a lot of times, and one of these times I lent this to Seth. I lent this specific game to Seth because he wanted to try it, and so I lent it to him. Then I had moved and forgot he even had it. Then I was, living in Cole Township for a while with a girlfriend, and went through a bad relationship there, really bad breakup. And I remember Seth messaged me when I was like moving again. He's like, "Hey, I still have your Final Fantasy 9. What do you want?" I'm like, "I just keep it." Like I was just kind of like, I brushed it off. And then years later, when I met up with Seth again, he hands this back to me that like he held on to it the entire time. So like I love this game, but like I can't really go through it again because like again it just like it draws up so many emotions for me that it's almost like it's like, not that it's like too painful, but it's just like too much like emotional energy tied into it. It's just like not even anything that goes on in the game, just the specific item.
Yeah.
but I can't ever get rid of it. Like I have to keep it. Like it has to be there. Yeah, you're gonna learn. I'm like very weird and sentimental, but yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I am that way.
Yeah.
So do either of you have any similar things or something along those lines?
I personally do not like have any emotional ties to any games really. Like even like when I went through my divorce, I was really playing We Happy Few like a lot. Like I don't know if you've ever played that game. That's like
is that the one where you have to take like the drugs to kind of similar, like to look like you're? I never played it, but I know of it.
Yeah, that was like my little escape through that whole thing. But him and I didn't really have similar gaming, I guess, taste. So like there isn't anything really tied there for me where I'm like, oh, I can't play that because it's like emotional for me in that regard or anything like that. Like I don't have anything, I guess, that I have like memories or anything attached to too much that I'm like, oh, I can't really play that again because it's going to bring up too much for me. But there have been games I've played that like are overly emotional where I'm like, okay, I like have to be in a different space, I guess, to kind of play that game again. Like that ending was like really like kind of fucked up, and I don't know if I want to play that for a while, but yeah.
Now we were gonna get to that a little bit later, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, mine would have to be Ark. I played that a lot with my ex, and we would play it a lot. We would just, and there's just a lot of. I don't think I could play that game without listening or hearing him talk to me in that game. Like it's just not a good idea. It's like stresses me out because when you have two different play styles, we both enjoyed the game, but that game has boundaries. So like if you're playing couch co-op or whatever, like you're stuck into a boundary. So you pretty much have to stay with each other the entire time, and it just was so frustrating all the time to play together. And then like it just that would be a game I would not ever. I sometimes I'm like, oh, I really would like to play this game because I like the survival aspect of it, but like I think I would just end up hearing his voice, and I'd rather not.
Yeah, I gotcha. Now, both of you guys had former partners that gamed, like you guys all. That's crazy. I've never. Yeah, see, any partner I've ever had never never played video games like at all. Never understood it. Yeah, seriously. So like you know, I'm never one who like I never want to force my hobby onto somebody. Like I fucking hate that. But if they ever like wanted, oh, can I try? Like obviously, yeah, sure. Well, I'll find something. You know, because I have a giant game collection, so I usually have mostly multiplayer games and stuff like that. But yeah, I just never had a partner that ever gamed. And like the things that used to drive me nuts with that would be like, I like to play RPG, so I'd sit down and they'd be like, "How long are you going to be?" I'm like,
I don't know.
You don't know. Dude, that's so funny that you bring that up because our whole family, when we were together, would all play video games. And then, so instead of saying, hey, you have to be done in 10 minutes, or hey, when you get to like a save spot, you can't say that when you play multiplayer games online. You just have to be like, when you're done that raid, then you can eat. You know what I mean? Because there's no pause. Or are you dead yet? Did you die? Because if you're dead, you're eating now. Like you just can't tell them to pause.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I always wish I could I always wish I could find somebody that I had like similar gaming tastes with, because like my ex-husband, he really liked to play. I don't know, League of Legends was like his like favorite thing, and that's like what he like played the most out of, and it was like always games like that. And then me, I was wanting to play like open world games and just like really fun games and like maybe different multiplayer games, but he like wasn't into that. And then I had another ex-boyfriend that all he liked to play was like sports games. And like I'm not gonna want to sit there and play like Madden or like whatever else there is. I'm just like I'm not, or the NBA games and stuff. I was like I don't want to play that. I mean, I would like watch him, but I'm like this isn't fun. Like I want to meet somebody that I can like play certain things with. I think that'd be nice to have like a like mind when it comes to it. But then again, my taste is kind of weird, so I don't know.
This fucker Seth, like him and his fiance, they like play through Baldur's Gate together, and I'm like,
oh my god,
yeah, he's like,
yes, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, and I was like, I looked at him the one day, I'm like, you fucking lucky bastard. But anyway,
where do you find that?
Right, yeah. The funny thing about him is like literally every partner he's ever had has gamed. Like I don't know how he's managed to figure that one out, but every single partner he's had has like played video games. I'm like, I don't get it. But the funny thing about dudes who play sports games, and I say this all the time, is really they're just in the RPGs. Because if you really break down a sports game,
pretty much.
It's like they have stats like someone's QB rating like their throw power will be like a 97. Really, that's just when that guy throws the ball, it's a dice roll that happens off screen whether he's going to catch it or not. So like all these guys are just really genuinely into RPGs but don't realize it
without knowing it.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, I never had a partner that like ever wanted to game, and every time we would game, it'd be something simple. Because like you don't want to put something too complicated onto somebody, and then like if they're not good at it, and then like you're like,
go to this raid, do this 12-man raid. It's easy. It's only 12 people.
Yeah, they handed you an MMO, which is shocking. But yeah, that's But the other side of that coin too is like there are a bunch of games that I have a bunch of positive memories with, like Halo. Anyone who went to Lewisburg at that point probably attended a LAN party, or do you remember like the for prom what we would do after the prom, the lock-in they had?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like a bunch of us guys brought our consoles in, like, and we would just play.
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, and so in the old music room, like there was Halo being played, DDR, Guitar Hero, like.
Actually, yeah, I think I did play Guitar Hero in there a couple times. Yeah. Oh my god, Guitar Hero! Guitar Hero is everything. I love Guitar Hero. Like, I want to play that right now. Actually, like I used to kill on Guitar Hero. It was my obsession. I loved it.
I just I found a couple of my old guitars because I'm building a game room in my basement, and
cool.
so I've been trying to hunt down stuff that works. So I gotta go test my guitars. I love Guitar Hero as well. Like I specifically Guitar Hero 3. Like that was the one. Like I remember like playing trying to learn that Dragon Force song on Expert.
Yeah,
never do
so
it.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there was like random songs they would put on there. Like remember, like that's when like Senses Fail became mainstream. Like that's they were on Guitar Hero 3 randomly.
Yeah.
Same like Fall of Troy, I think was randomly on there too. So like,
I feel like that was like one of the best ones though. Like that had such a good mix of artists. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love Guitar Hero 3. Shout out to Rock Band too. You remember when Rock Band came out?
Yes, I played. Did you know Casey Adamai? Does that name sound familiar? Okay, we used to go to his house and play Rock Band all the time, like a bunch of us. He had like the whole setup, and we would like play Rock Band, and I was always mad because they made me be the singer. I'm like, why can't I like play the drums or something? Why are you making me like stand here singing in this living room right now? Like, I don't want to do this, but it was so fun.
That's funny because like we had a mutual friend, Logan. We used to never let him play the guitar.
Logan,
yeah, he's a good dude.
He was friend for so long in school.
He's a good dude. Yeah, he
is
brews good beer. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to the Rusty Rail.
Yes.
But yeah, we would play Rock Band, and then like even in college, like I played a shit ton of Rock Band, like drunkenly singing Queen before going out to the bar. Yeah, just like so, like people playing that, like really. Yeah, really, you just love karaoke, which
pretty much. I love karaoke. It's like
I love karaoke too. I used to do karaoke at the Bull Run Inn all the time. Like every Thursday after work, me and my buddy Adrian, we would go do karaoke.
That sounds so fun.
Good time. All right, so as we've been discussing, like the coping, and it's really just escapism in a sense, right? Like if you really, I guess, break it down and simplify it. It's all it really is escapism. It's just focusing on something that is just not your current situation. So I got the same thing out of sports too, because I loved sports when I would play sports. The only thing that mattered was, what was going on the field at that moment in time. It didn't matter like what grade you were in, whether you were poor or not, whether like none of that shit mattered. So same thing with games. Like I feel like I get that same sense of escapism from it. But do you ever feel that that coping skill can turn negative? Like do you feel like it can ever be too much?
I do. Sometimes I'll get like super like lost in the gaming, and I'll get super antisocial, and I'll just like block everyone out, and I'll just get lost in that space where I'm not even recognizing that I'm like too deep in the escapism. And then I'm like, oh shit, I kind of have to like start socializing again and like talking to people. Like people are like, what's going on with you? Like, where have you been? Like, you're not talking to anybody. And I'm like, oh, I've just been like drowning myself in video games right now. Like, I don't feel like dealing with life. It does. There are times where having that has gotten pretty bad, but not lately. Lately, I feel like I've been balancing it out pretty well. I have other things to kind of get me out of my dark holes. So.
Yeah, like and I was saying, I think the young kids call it touching grass now. I think that's what they want us doing. Yeah.
Get out and see the sunshine for a second. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I agree with that because even for me, like my own personal experience when it got to be like out of hand, and I mean like out of hand within reason. But like there were times where, and I sometimes still do this because I'm a child, but there are times where like I don't want to do anything. Like sometimes like I'll wake up and just have like no energy. I don't know what it is. And there's sometimes like I just like I'll text my boss like, yeah, I ain't going in today, and then I'll just dive into a game. But for me, a time it was like a year ago. Went through that bad breakup, had to relocate to Philly when I really didn't want to, and then so again like you move somewhere new, and it's like that sense of isolation. You're starting a new job that you're trying to do a good job at, and you're my first time working in an adult jail. Which fun fact, I'll tell you a little quick story. My first day in the jail, I was in the new hire orientation, and the first thing they do is they search you, to make sure you didn't bring any drugs in. But before that, you do introductions and just shake hands, everybody introduce yourself. So we do that, and then like the drug dogs come through, and I guess one drug dog sniffed something on the one guy, and then like he wouldn't he wouldn't like take the ion scanner or take a urine, so they escorted him out because they suspected him of having some sort of contraband. And I'm like looking, I'm like, I shook hands with that guy. I'm just like trying to like rub my hand. I'm like, oh, okay. So it gets better. And I don't want to gross anyone out, but so as I'm walking into the jail to go see like where my office is, I see an inmate being brought up in cuffs and like with medical, and like his face is just like bleeding profusely. And I guess he had gotten into like a major fight and got his nose bitten off.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah. So this is like, I went from like juvie where like nothing crazy happens like that. Like they get in fights and do dumb stuff, but nothing like super violent. So I went from like that to this where it's just like graphically violent, like, oh shit. And then I'm just like, what is going on? I'm like, what did I get myself into? And I didn't know how to talk. I didn't know how to talk to anybody about it because like when I go, like I'm the only one of my circle of friends who works in law enforcement of any capacity. So like nobody would get
like, can't really relate to it.
Yeah. So like I'm like, what is going on? So I was going through that, and then going through the breakup, and I started playing these like JRPGs called The Legend of Heroes. Me and Seth talk about them all the time. They're like our favorite games ever, but they're like 100+ hour games. And in like 3 months, I went through, there's 10 games in the series total. I went through 6 of them in 3 months. Like just sitting in a dark room and just that is all I did. And then after a while, like I started like noticing like my muscles started atrophying. I'm like, okay, wait, this is too much to the left here. Like, like I noticed my bones cracking when I'd get up. I'm like, oh no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I had to take a break from gaming for like a good 4 months and just like walk and hit the gym
do things.
I just couldn't like I had to pack all my games up. Like this is like super unhealthy for me right now. So it's like always it's always important to find that, like with anything, like too much of anything will kill you, but specifically with games, because there are people who sometimes will let gaming ruin their life, which is like a wild thing to think about.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, but it happens. Like even in college, like I had one of my roommates in college, all he did was play WoW. That's all he did. And then like
I knew a guy who did that and lost his wife.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like you wouldn't, and like they don't even think there's an issue with it. They're just like, oh no, I'm just playing a game, I'm not hurting nobody. But you're not like engaging with the world around you.
No, but it can become very addicting.
Yeah, that's why stuff like the way gaming is trending now, like some stuff kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like I think VR is cool, but like I also get very concerned about VR.
Yeah, that'd be easy to get lost.
Yeah, and like you ever like read Ready Player One or watch the movie, kind of like how that went down?
Yeah,
like,
I can totally see that being like a thing, honestly.
Yeah, it's like it's scary. So it's it's just one of those things. Like it's interesting to see where games are going, because like games now are way more expensive than they ever have been as far as like production value. If you follow some of the news, like even the new PlayStation that's coming out, like the Pro, that fucker's $700 now. Like if you want a Pro. So it's just like you're seeing.
So I mean, the PS5 is gonna go on sale then, because I still don't have a PS5. I'm like, when's that gonna go on sale so I can get that? Because my PS4 is like on its last leg.
I mean, with the PS5, you can still buy them. I think you can buy them refurb from Sony for like $100 less than they are now, which is pretty decent. But I don't know if they're in fact upping the price of the PS5 in like other countries. Like I think in Japan it went up by 100. It went up by like $100, ironically enough. But yeah, it's just crazy to see where like gaming's going, and. I've always wondered, because in a therapeutic aspect, so like I come from a counseling background. I've always been curious if like you could use gaming to help somebody work through trauma. Like that's something
Absolutely.
I've always been curious about.
There's a TED Talk about it that talks about just that. Really? I wish I could remember this TED Talk, but when I was playing WoW, one of my friends that we were in the group with, she's like, B, listen to this TED Talk talking about how gaming literally helps you with your trauma. And I was actually going to talk about that. When I would play Dead by Daylight when it first came out, I had seasonal depression so bad that I literally played that game from the time my kids went to school. Then they would come home, so I would stop. And then as soon as they would go to bed, I would play all over again. Like, I got in a really, really, like, darker place than I probably should have been, because I only played killer side, not survivor. And I was, like, using it as a way to, like, cope what was going on in my life. So then I would get frustrated if I wouldn't win, and then you have like, I don't know if you've ever played Dead by Daylight, but when you play Killer, the Survivor side, everybody complains about this, but they say Survivor is really, really toxic. It's hard to win if you play Killer all the time. But this is like an argument that goes on a lot. But when you first started, when that first game first started coming out, it was really hard to get wins. And so like that made it even more addictive for me to want to play. So I was trying to use it as a coping mechanism to like, this is my trauma, what's wrong with me, blah, 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 blah. But then it was like this other weird layer about, I have to beat this level. I have to get to rank 1. If I don't get to rank 1, blah, blah, blah. And so I had to stop playing for a good while. But there is a TED Talk that talks about how video games are helping people deal with like their inner child, how they can work through their traumas in a healthy way. I should try and find that. But I do know it's a TED Talk.
Okay. Yeah. So, because when I was a youth development counselor, I specifically worked in the girls program. That I worked with teenage girls, and they came from very traumatic backgrounds. Some of them were trafficked and stuff like that. But like when I would do their individual counseling sessions, like some of the stuff they would talk to me about would. Not that I was sitting in sessions thinking about video games, like, but it would just remind me of certain games that like would have a similar story. And for me, like, I the way I work through things is I have to relate to something. So I got to find something to relate to, and then like it helps me understand it. So like certain video games talk about like character development, like who you are, or coming of age, or grief and loss, and things like. So I would always want to be like, oh, you should try this and like work through this because like to me, video games are like interactive books, especially the ones that have like stories. They're like interactive books, and like I think you can really work through some stuff. But I could never really put it into practice because I could never really justify to like some counties that I have a kid playing PlayStation 4 an hour a day just to they weren't going to go for that. So like with the state just wasn't going to happen. But what little things I would do is I would tie that into their treatment plan. So like sometimes like they would have like what's called a restrictive procedure plan. And what that means is like if they felt like they were going to get out of control, if they were going to act out self-harm or harm somebody else, they could utilize what's called an RPP to help them as a coping skill. And sometimes I would have kids like play Wii Fit or like something small like to just take their mind off it. And that was always effective. So like I always wondered if like you could always like have treatment based gaming like just kind of as you know that coping skill. So it's always been something that's fascinated me. One day I will try it. One day I will, if I'm ever when I retire from law enforcement and I start open a practice or something, that might be something I use. But yeah, it's still a goal of mine. Because I very much feel like gaming is one of the healthiest habits I have as far as vices. Like I don't really drink. Like I drink socially. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
But like gaming is my vice, and like I know so many people who've worked in similar careers as me who all they do is drink, all they do is go out and like smoke, and or they have
their way to like escape all
yeah
that. Like,
or like
Yeah.
you know they have like affairs on their partners and shit. Like it's like very like in law enforcement and healthcare, like the infidelity rate is insanity.
I can imagine.
So
honestly.
like for me, like you know, I use games to just kind of take my mind off of things or just kind of like work through some tough conversations I have had. But yeah, I always encourage everybody to like try it. If you are curious about gaming, just you know, most people know somebody who games. I feel like it's a fairly common hobby at this point, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I always encourage everyone to just try it, get out there, experience some stuff. There are some games that will strike a chord with you.
Absolutely.
And you said you had a little bit of an experience with that. Are there any endings? Spoiler warnings. So by the way,
there were a couple. Like I used to play. Like some of my favorite games to play are the Life is Strange games. I don't know if you've ever played any of those.
I'm familiar with them. Yeah, they're great games.
Yeah, they really are. They're just so good. You have like different endings you can come upon and everything, but they always have like really like deep stories to them. And pretty much like every single one of them has been like a hard hitter where like by the end of it you're like crying or you're just so shocked by like how terrible the ending was. Not like in a bad way, but like the terror that took place and like what those characters had to go through and everything. So those are like some of the ones that are like really heavy at times. And then the one that like really shocked me that got me like in a kind of dark space that like really took a really, really dark turn was Amori. I don't know if you've ever played that game. But the ending of that is just super dark and kind of depressing, and it made me bawl. Like by the end of the game I was like bawling, and I just like I don't know, was shattered by it. It's like one of my favorite games, but like I kind of had to take a break because I wanted to go back and play it so I could get like all the achievements and everything. But like even just playing again, it's really, really triggering. And especially if you like deal with depression and things like that, like it's super triggering. And I don't know, that ending was just kind of shattering. And I wasn't expecting that ending. And I did for like days. I like cried about it. I was like, oh my God, like, it was just so like ridiculous. But those are two of the games I think that had the most like sort of traumatic type of endings that really struck like a heart chord where you're like, oh my God, like I wasn't expecting that. Especially those Life is Strange games too. Like they're just, I don't know, they're so personal. Some of them are just so personal. And that's like another game I feel like people, like how you were talking about, like if they wanted to connect with something, especially in like a trauma sort of area, like where it could help them work through things, like some of those games could probably like, they could connect with it and they could be like, I don't know, work through their things with certain ones. Cause there's just so many of those too. Like they keep coming out with new Life is Strange games and I don't know. I think they could be like somewhat therapeutic depending on what you went through and everything.
Oh, for sure. What about you, Bea? Any that come to mind for you?
I can't think of any off the top of my head because I think, well, my ex-husband played, what was that game? It was like you got to choose a storyline. Something Rain, Heavy Rain.
Oh, Heavy Rain. That's a great game.
Heavy Rain, yes. It's such a good game.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's like, you picked a storyline and he played the game. That's how we did it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I
That
feel
was
like
fun.
those kinds of games. Also, I feel like Sims is a really good game for that. Like you can pick the kind of life that you want that would be healthy and then like say like these are the choices that you can make, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, I used to like build my own storylines just to like have a happier ending in life. Like I'm like, this
I just watched this TikTok and they were like, do you guys notice that the Sims are becoming aware? They're like becoming aware.
Like,
Like
looking
I'm
at
like
the characters and everything, or
like I
like,
can't.
Look at you, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah,
that's wild. You ever see like people doing super dark shit on like The Sims? Like that's like.
I used to actually like drown people in pools just so I could have a graveyard. I wanted a whole graveyard of just people so they could haunt my Sims and stuff. And then one time I locked a guy in the basement and he was only allowed to paint pictures to like make me money in my household. And he had like a bathroom and like a kitchen and that was it. He was like the painter of the house, the painting goblin. But
it can get dark there. There are people like will put them in the pool and take the ladder out so they can never get out of the pool.
They actually like I think this is for you can't do that anymore. Like you can remove the ladder, but they can like jump out of the pool, so they like stopped you from like just purposely killing people. Because everyone was pretty much doing it. But it was like the quickest way to get a graveyard and have people haunted, and I don't know, that was fun. Like building little things like that was fun.
Yeah, no, it's wild. You see people do the weirdest shit on The Sims that like. It's crazy because like with that freedom, like there are some people who like will do, normal things, and other people would kind of go because it's a game. They're like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. It reminds me of like Fable in that way. If you ever played Fable, it's like one of those games that similar or has like a morality system. You can be either like really good or really evil. It's kind of really up to you the way you want to go about it. It's a great game. It's actually one of Seth's favorite games of all time, actually. But for me, Death Stranding is one that like comes to mind as far as like it struck a chord with me because like that game it came out like right before COVID. It came out, so it was like November of 2019. It came out, and then COVID hit. And what this game is about is like reconnecting like bonds in the world. So like it was just like it got to be like a little heavy for me. Like damn, this is like spot on. I'm like it was almost like this person predicted this was going to happen. I was like. But yeah, it was like you got to reconnect the country and build those relationships, and people don't want you near them, and it's like a big empty world, and that's how it felt like for us, where like you kind of just there's nobody, nobody was around. I remember going to New York City, and like you can't drive through New York. You can't drive through New York City. That's like not a thing. But like when COVID was a thing, you could just drive through, and seeing the empty streets was like nuts. So that's one that comes to mind, and then another one was Last of Us. I watched
the playthrough because I don't like primarily like shooter games, but I love the storyline of that. That was such a good game to like watch. Like it was such a good game. I can imagine.
But Last of Us just like Specifically stuff with Joel, like that, like just even the beginning of The Last of Us, like stuff that happened with his family. Like, I don't have kids of my own, but like it still just struck a chord with me because like I was like, oh,
so many
yeah, like anyone who is a parent, like anyone who's a parent who's played that says that same thing. They like, damn, that like that hits them hard. Yeah, so it's like that's one. Have either of you guys played Detroit Become Human at all?
Yes.
No, but I really want to. I really want to.
It's so good.
You guys should definitely play through that because that's if you like Quantic Dream games because it's like probably one of my favorite ones that they did. I think I like Beyond Two Souls a little bit more than that one.
Me too.
But Detroit Become Human. That one tripped me up because like it's one of those games that like it's kind of coming to the forefront now where we're dealing with like AI and like so it's like it's that weird
reality.
It's that weird reality that we're dealing with now. So that's awesome. But yeah, definitely check that out. So in closing, do you guys have anything else? Any other game like coping skill with gaming things you wanted to bring up or anything that comes to mind before we get wrapped up here?
No, I just think everybody should play a game. Just play a game.
Play games.
Just play a game.
Healthy escapism.
Yeah, play games.
Yeah.
And have fun. Reach out.
And meet
people.
Social.
Yeah, meet people. Touch grass. Bathe.
Yeah.
Learn to balance.
All right. So where can people find your podcast?
We are on YouTube and Spotify. It's called Jules. It's called All Things with Jules and Bea. We also have an Instagram page, a TikTok page, and a Facebook page. So lots of different places.
Our TikTok only just has like clips, and we're trying to make it fun for people. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were just hiking, right? Like I just saw.
Did you watch it?
One of you shared it. One of you guys shared it. I was on like Facebook. It popped like the TikTok or something like that. That's how I see it. I don't have TikTok, but
Jesus, look at these mushrooms. They look like bread.
They were like a pile of buttons. It just looked like a little pile of buttons. They were like perfect. I was like, ooh, anybody that was hungry could be like, bread. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, you can find the link to their YouTube channel to be in this description of this video. Check us out on Facebook. We are at @alpha_nerds prime. We're on Instagram as well at alpha nerds prime. So check us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you everybody for our time. And remember,
thank you.
When in doubt, square up, throw down. Thank you everybody.